What's up guys, and welcome back to the Pokemon Sun and Moon video, and today we are going to be talking about genetics. Yes, genetics, good old genetics. Well, why are we talking about this? I'm sure a load of you have already guessed. We are talking about the trio of Lillie, Lusamine and Gladion. Why are we talking about them? Because, well, I'm not even going to have to say anything for this. Look at them, they look related. Straight off, you don't even have to look hard for this. You can all see they have the same hair colour and they have the same eye colour. So it's a sort of an acceptable conclusion to jump to, saying, yeah, they've got to be related. But are they actually? Does it make sense genetically for them to be? Well, let's look at it a bit more detail. First up, we'll look at the eye colour, since of course eye colour is a predominant feature in all three of these, because they have very nice green eyes. If we look at what shade of green these eyes are, you can see that the shade Lusamine has is a lighter shade than, of course, the shade that Lillie and Gladion have. You can see they're a more sort of a slightly paler one, but Lillie and Gladion have almost exactly the same shade of eye colour, whereas Lusamine is a bit brighter. So what is green eye colour? Is this, does it mean that it's like they're related? Yes, really. There's not much more to say apart from that. Green eye colour is a very rare eye colour. There's about 2% of people in the world, obviously depending on regions it's slightly higher or lower, in the world only 2% of people have green eye colour. That's very rare. That's a very low percentage, whereas if you think about brown and blue, it's obviously a lot higher. The reason for this being that blue and green, they're both recessive sort of genes. They are less likely to be transitioned over. Now, eye colour through genetics is not as simple as this one beats this one, and it's more likely for this one to overpower. It's not quite as easy as that. It's sort of like that a hair colour, but with eye colour, recently it was discovered that there are up to 16 different genes that can affect your eye colour. So it's not quite as cut and dry as this one overpowers this one. So if you have two browns, or a brown and a green, you get brown, for example. So you can't really say that. But what we can say is it's more likely for this trait to carry on, this colour to carry across, and it's less likely for this one. So for example, just a very brief tool online I used to look at these percentages. It's very brief, it's very simple, so obviously they're not going to be exact, very accurate sort of percentages or numbers here, but they will give you a overall idea of how common it is for each eye colour. For example, if we were to have two, if both your parents, or if two people decided to have a little baby, and they both had blue eyes, the chance of them having a child with green eyes is about 5%. So it's not a huge chance, but it's a chance. It's not like you can never get green unless one of your parents has got green eyes, because that's just not how it works. So it's about 5%. If two people with brown eyes have a baby, the chance of that baby having green eyes is actually only 1%, and the reason for that being that brown is generally overall more dominant than green and blue, so it's going to overpower basically. And if two parents with green eyes have a child, the chance of that child having green eyes as well is about 99 to 100%. It's a very high number, whereas obviously blue and brown very low. Green, pretty high. If both your parents have green eyes, it's very likely you're going to have green eyes as well. But of course, it's not guaranteed. There are still ways for you to have brown eyes or blue eyes or a different eye colour entirely, because of genetics, that's how it works. But generally, less likely if both your parents haven't got green eyes. So to have three characters that all have green eyes is a bit suspicious. Before we move on, talk about more about that, we're going to move on to the hair colour. Now, as you can tell, they also have very similar hair colours, and the shades of their hair is almost exactly the same, whereas there was a slight difference with the eyes, of course, between Lusamine and the two younger blonde greenies, whatever you want to call them. You can see the shade is almost exactly the same. There is almost no difference you can tell with your eyes, unless, of course, you pulled them out and looked at the values of the colours. There's also almost no difference between them. So it's almost exactly the same shade. Now, is blonde hair colour rarer than other types of hair colour, or what is this about? Well, when I was researching this, I found out very sort of conflicting values for blonde hair colour online. I think it's just dependent on region, of course, because if you go to somewhere like Africa and you were to survey the whole of Africa, obviously not as many people are going to have blonde hair as they would, for example, not as many people have blonde hair, for example, if you went to Europe and surveyed everyone there. But in general, the lowest value I saw was a 2% for blonde overall in the whole world population, and I also saw 10% as the maximum. But basically, it's a lower hair colour. It's not like it's a really rare hair colour you never see, because a lot of people have blonde hair, of course. but it's not as common as, say, black or brown. Those are the more common hair colours. So I'm not going to say there's only 2% of the people in the world that have blonde hair. It's obviously a lot higher than that, and especially if you're looking at Europe and Australia, Europe and America, as well as Australia, of course, they're going to have higher values of blonde hair. So it's not a rare hair colour, but it is again similar to like blue and green eye colour. It's a recessive gene. Generally, brown and black overpower it. For example, 2 black parents, the chance of them having a blonde child, very, very, very low, if not impossible. I wouldn't say it's impossible, because I'm sure there are ways of mutation probably, but very, very unlikely. So basically, in a similar way. For example, if we have 2 parents who have brown hair, the chance of them having a blonde child is 12%. So it's not like it's a really high chance. It's not like it's an incredibly low chance. It's a reasonable chance, but you're more likely to get brown hair. If you have 2 parents with black or red hair, apparently the chance is 0%. I'm not going to say it's 0%, it's a very low chance though, even lower than brown. If you have strawberry blonde hair, so that's sort of like mixed between red and yellow, red and blonde, it's about 25% if both your parents are strawberry blondes, because that's sort of, strawberry blonde is half red, half blonde, so it sort of mixes like that. But if both parents were blonde, it's a very high chance to have a blonde child, of course, but of course not impossible, because hair genes are slightly different. There's like 2 different sort of ways you can do it. If both you have 2 copies of each gene basically, so you could either have a brown one and a blonde one, or you could have 2 brown ones. If you have 2 brown ones, of course, the chance of your child having brown hair is a lot higher than if you had a brown and a blonde, because obviously they fight it out when stuff happens. So yes, of course, which isn't accurate, but yes, if both your parents are blonde, it's more likely that you're going to be blonde yourself. If then you have a blonde parent and a brown parent, the chance is about 35% to be blonde, so it's a bit higher, of course, but not incredibly high. And then if you have black, apparently it's still not able to get it, but who knows exactly whether that's true or not. And then same with red again. And the strawberry blonde though is 50-50. So if one of your parents is strawberry blonde and the other one is blonde, it's 50-50 apparently to be blonde. So basically, to have blonde, for a higher chance of blonde hair, you either have to have blonde parents or strawberry blonde parents, or blonde or strawberry blonde are the highest chances basically. So looking at it overall, it's unlikely to have a blonde-haired, green-eyed person meet another one. I'm not going to say meet another one, but have more than a few people with blonde hair and green eyes in the same area to meet up, because obviously it's a rare. 2% have green eyes, and then let's say 10% have blonde hair. So if you have 2% of 10%, obviously 10% of the people that have 2% of the people that have blonde hair will also have green eyes. So 10%. Then 2%, so overall 2% of 10 is, 2% of 10 is a very low number. That would be 0.2, that would be 0.2, so 0.2% of people in the world, have blonde hair and green eyes, which is a very low number. But of course the Pokemon world could be different. Maybe there's loads of people that have green eyes and we just never noticed it before. Well, I looked back at X and Y and I took a little snapshot of the characters there. I took out the gym leaders and the Elite Four, as well as just general characters, rivals, Professor Sycamore and such. So I did about 20 to 24 people, just looked at their hair colour and their eye colour, pulled it out and had a look. There are 3 of those characters that have blonde hair, those being Karina, Clement, as well as Seabold. So Elite Four Seabold, Gym Leader Clement and Gym Leader Karina. So it's not only 3 out of 24, so that would be 1/6, so not a huge number, but then again not a very low number either. Then I looked at green-eyed people, and there were actually 3 people with green eyes in X and Y. So okay, are we just barking up the wrong tree then? Well, those 3 people with green eyes were Shauna, of course, and the other 2 were, get ready for this, Alexa and Viola. Yes, the 2 of the 3 characters in X and Y who had green eyes, or you can see they're a slightly paler green, who had green eyes, were related. They were related to each other. You can see their hair colour is different, one being brown, one being blonde. Possibly they had brown and blonde parents, or something similar to that. But yes, 2 of the 3 in X and Y had green eyes were actually related to one another. What does that mean for us? Well, it means that the chances of Gladion, Lillie and Lusamine being related in some way, whether it's brother, sister and sister, whether Lusamine is possibly their mother, I wouldn't think so, since introducing that sort of thing in the Pokemon world would be a bit interesting. I would imagine they're brother and sisters. Lusamine obviously being the oldest, Gladion being the middle child, and then Lillie being the youngest. The chance of them being related is, I would say, very high. I would put money on it, basically. I'd put money on them being related in some way. Who knows if it's going to be confirmed by the game? I would assume it is in some aspect. Maybe, they just sort of remarked, oh, I know you. But what does it mean for the plot of the game if they are related? Okay, we've got 3 people that are related, but they're in completely different factions, if you call them. Obviously, Lusamine is the president of the Foundation. Gladion is now working with Team Skull as the Enforcer, and Lillie is with Professor Kukui. 3 different factions if you think of the player and the professor as one faction, because we are the good guys. A Foundation is, yes, they seem like they're good, but they might have alternative plans and alternative motives as another faction, and obviously Team Skull being the bad guys, or the obvious bad guys of the game, being another faction. 3 family members in completely different factions. What does this mean? Well, for one, maybe Lillie's reason for being and helping the professor out is to teach her brother a lesson, who has obviously joined Team Skull to rough up some people and steal some Pokemon. Maybe he's turned to the dark side, and maybe Lusamine is similar in that way. Maybe Lillie knows that something weird is going on with Lusamine, and she could maybe help out with that by studying with the professor. And maybe she used to work with the Foundation, but didn't want to, and that's her personal reason. She wants to go with the professor to work towards stopping these people, or preventing both Team Skull and possibly the Foundation from doing extra work. Or it might just not just be the fact of that, they might actually be related to the Ultra Beast, as we have spoken already, and Lillie could be representative of UB01, and then Lusamine and Gladion could themselves be representative of UB02 Expansion and UB02 Beauty. That's one other theory though, so I'm not going to talk about it too much this episode, but let me know down below what you think. Do you think these 3 characters are going to be related, as in brother and sisters? And do you think it will be confirmed by the game, and what does it mean if that is the case? Let me know what you think down below, guys, and if you enjoyed this little genetic video, let me know by hitting the like button. But for now, this is going to be me for today. I'll be seeing you next time. Thank you for watching. Goodbye, my friends.